Alright, hi, I'm Mike Hughes, and today we're going to go ahead and cover creek crossing. This is Ranger, and we're going to be doing the creek crossing with him, which he's not very good at. So we're going to go ahead and start teaching him how to cross the creek. Now when I come up to the creek, wherever Ranger stops, whether it's 20 feet before the creek or 10 feet before the creek, is where the training begins. So wherever he stops is where the training begins. And today, just for example, if he gets up to the creek or 5 feet from the creek and it's been 45 minutes or an hour, then he can turn around and go home. The biggest mistake you want to make is, I came up on the creek, my horse has to cross the creek that day. It doesn't work like that. Ranger doesn't know what I want. He doesn't know whether I want him to cross the creek, 5 feet from the creek, up to the creek, in the creek. He has no idea what I want him to do. So, let's say we start 20 feet from the creek and he gets up to 10 feet from the creek, and I decide, okay, we've had enough for today, we're going home. Then tomorrow I just come back and we start 10 feet from the creek and work up to the creek, and then the next day I go, into the creek, and the next day I can cross the creek. So just because you come up on the creek that day doesn't mean you have to cross the creek. The more time you put into your training when it comes to crossing a creek or any training lesson you do, the more time you put into it, the more steps you put into it, the better for the horse and the easier the horse is going to be able to learn it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you.
This video is on creek crossing, and as you can see in the beginning, I had Ranger about 20 feet away from the creek, so I'm just going to walk him up to it. Wherever he stops is where the training begins. And if he tries to go to the left there, I'm going to bring him back to the right. And when he puts his nose down, at least he's thinking about crossing the creek. So I'm going to let him stand there for a few minutes or so and let him think about it. So if he looks down or he puts his nose down to the creek, at least he's thinking about crossing it. He wants to see what he's going to cross before he actually goes across the creek. So we're just going to sit here. And if he was to stop 20 feet before the creek, then that's where the training would begin. If he stopped 10 feet before the creek, that's where the training would begin. If he stopped 5 feet before the creek, that's where the training would begin. So I'm going to let him stand there when he's nice and comfortable. And I think I have, a 99% chance of him moving. I'll put my legs on him and have him take a step forward. Or he may take a step back, or he might decide to go to the left, or he might decide to go to the right. If he goes to the left, I'm going to pick up on the right rein and bring him back. If he goes to the right, I'm going to pick up on the left rein and bring him back. If he goes backwards, I'm going to keep using my legs until he goes forward. And I'm going to have a specific place out on the creek that's where we're going to cross. So I'm going to just keep his nose on the spot that I want to cross. As you saw a few seconds ago, I'm going to make sure on the other side is going to be clear. So when we go to cross the creek, if he was to jump it, we're not going to land on anything. Alright, so he just put his nose down again, so he's still thinking about crossing it. He's not, being defiant. He just wants to know what he's going to cross before he actually goes into it. And horses know it's water because they can smell the water. So he knows it. But the problem with horses crossing water is they really don't know how deep it is or what's underneath the water. So again, they're really trusting us to make the right decision for them, that it's a safe place to cross at. So this is going to go on for a little while. There he took a step a little bit further forward, but it's going to go on for a while. It's going to go back and forth. So, the worst thing you can do is two things. One, force him across the creek. If you put a pair of spurs on and spurred him, that's not going to do any good because he's going to be more afraid of the creek. And two, you don't ever want to get off and lead your horse across the creek because there's a really big chance that they're going to try to jump it and then they're going to land on you. And I know in the past 5 or 6 different times that it really did happen where the person tried to lead the horse across the creek and the horse jumped the creek and landed on them. So a couple of seconds ago, he tried to back up. I just used my legs and asked him to go back forward. There he looks down at the creek again. So again, he's thinking about crossing it. There he's thinking about crossing it. And, you wouldn't want to specifically do this where there's a lot of green grass because then he's want to put his head down to eat the green grass. So, and there he puts a foot in and there he goes ahead and crosses it. And he did really well, so I'm really happy with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take him back across the creek again. And we're going to practice this several different times during this 11-minute video. We're going to keep going back and forth across the creek. And then I'm going to go find a different place to cross the creek. Then I'm going to stop him in the creek. Then we're going to walk up and down the creek a little bit. And that's what you want to do. You just don't want to get him across it one time and say, oh, okay, he knows it now, because that's never the case. So you want to, find a place in the creek, and you want to cross it several different times. And at first, your horses might jump the creek. And if he jumps it like he does right there, that's fine. I don't have a problem with him jumping the creek. He can jump it if he wants. But if I keep taking him back and forth across it, he's going to quit jumping the creek, and he's going to learn how to walk across the creek. Now, the other issue is, and this is a pretty narrow creek, so the more narrow the creek is, the harder it's going to be for the horse, or for you to get your horse to put a hoof or a foot in the creek. Because he can just step over it, or he can just jump it. Alright, so the wider the creek, the better it's going to be, because then he'll have to put a foot in it. So the more narrow it is, the harder it's going to be for him to cross something, or the creek, or another obstacle, a bridge, etc. Good. So I'm letting him look down at it, then I'm giving him a little bit of leg and having him cross it. And then we're going to go ahead and cross it again. So he's doing pretty good here. Does really good. We do have a second horse that we did this with that's a lot more difficult than he was. And we'll be posting that video up here in the next couple of days as well as part 2 on creek crossing. But even though he has a foot in it, I'm still going to let him look down at it, because he wants to see what it is. And, he knows it's water, but he doesn't know how deep the water is, or what's underneath the water. And that's what they want to look at and see. So we're going to let him go across it again. And we're just going to keep crossing, and eventually here in a minute we'll go ahead and let him go up and down the creek a little bit, which he was right here. Yep, right here. We're going to let him stand in the creek here for a minute, so he's so comfortable with that, then go across it. So this won't be his only lesson. He's probably going to go through a couple of weeks of this. And we're going to go find different creeks in different areas and have him cross those creeks until, he crosses the creeks really, really nice. And it's just not the creek, it's any obstacle. So now I'm asking him to walk down this creek just a little bit. And he does, he's doing all right. And so now he's all the way in the creek. And we're going to have him go forward a little bit. And he does. And there he goes right there. And then he comes out the other side. So with this horse, Ranger, he's trying to be very, very, very obedient and doing the things I ask him. He's just not sure of the creek. And that goes, for any obstacle that you're teaching your horse how to cross, because horses understand life and death. They don't understand getting hurt. So in this case, if Ranger is wrong for trusting me about crossing the creek, he dies. If he's right for trusting me, he lives. Alright, but the last thing that crosses his mind, maybe I'm going to get hurt. Maybe I won't. That doesn't cross his mind. The only thing that crosses his mind is life and death. So I'm going to have him keep crossing the creek in different areas. Yeah. And he does really good there. So now I'm going to go find a different area to cross the creek now, because, he's doing alright, and he jumps that one. So now we're going to take him back across and go the other direction. And, again, he's going to look down, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to still let him look down. And there he halfway jumped it, but, he still jumped it a little bit. So now I'm back up on the hill there a little bit. And I'm going to go have him cross right there. And there he did all right. He kind of stepped over it, but I really like him to be able to step in it and know that it's all right. Again, he doesn't understand the difference between life, or he understands life and death. He doesn't understand getting hurt. and that's his biggest fear. And that's, most horses' biggest fear is, they're going to get killed doing this, because they don't understand the hurt aspect. They understand what life and death is all about. So again, we're going to keep working with them on it. And you want to also, like I said, make sure when you're crossing the creek on both sides that there's nothing he's going to jump into, or a low branch that you're going to get hung up on, something like that. Then be able, when you're crossing the creek, make sure you can see the bottom of the creek when you're crossing it, so it's going to be safer for you and your horse when you are crossing it. And precepts for that, you want to make sure they're rideable. They give to the bit, left, right, flex really softly, all that kind of stuff before you ever start doing this kind of stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my YouTube page to see new videos as they come out, and tell all your friends about this video so they can watch the video too. So here we're just going to keep going back and forth the creek a little bit, and that's how you want to train your horses how to cross creeks. So again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and